Here's a new F1 entry alert. Well, maybe. In today's video, we're going to talk about Porsche possibly checking out their options to enter Formula 1. And not just that, we got some other news too. And yes, that's also about other new F1 leading team contenders. And yes, it has names like Ford, Andretti, and a few others. Stay tuned and let's dive in. First things first, Porsche looking to enter the F1. The German car manufacturers still haven't given up on their F1 aspirations. Porsche continues to look for additional opportunities to get involved in Formula 1 after this summer's failed discussions with Red Bull. In the first quarter of 2022, rumors of discussions between Porsche and Red Bull persisted ever since a relationship between the two companies seemed possible. In fact, rumor has it, Porsche and Red Bull were close to reaching an engine agreement for the 2026 racing season, giving the Austrian team a solution to its power unit conundrum. But negotiations between these parties finally broke down when Red Bull objected to Porsche's claims for control over the team. Porsche allegedly made an extraordinarily ambitious proposal from a Formula 1 unknown to purchase a 50% interest in Red Bull technology. Porsche had practically no, let's say, likelihood of gaining such power over one of the most successful teams in the sport during the previous 10 years. Following up with the registry talks, a certain degree of the idea that Porsche was only interested in striking an agreement with a front runner came from the aggressive character of these conversations. This appeared to be confirmed by Porsche's inability to register for the 2026 F1 engine specifications by the FIA's deadline. On the other hand, recent events indicate that this interpretation may be hasty, and according to The Race, Porsche is still looking into potential options to make a Formula 1 entry. Following up, to be honest, it's obvious from their inability to register that the German brand's interest has waned recently. If anything, it's no longer possible to join the market only as an engine producer, although it's still possible that Porsche may work with another engine supplier or enter Formula 1 as an independent squad. How amazing would that be? Since attempting to join as a full-time entry would entail a substantial expenditure, alternative, more innovative arrangements and collaborations will be taken into consideration to proceed. Although some of these options are theoretical, the rising interest in Formula 1 and Porsche's dedication indicates that the narrative is not quite done. Moving on, let's take a look at the new team contenders. The Formula 1 has a fascinating variety of possible new teams and manufacturers sniffing around its periphery, from large manufacturers like Ford and Honda to the Andretti family, and way too many rich individuals. F1 is more appealing than ever in the modern period, thanks to the championship's rising popularity and prestige in the United States, as well as important events like the budget cap and new engine rules for 2026. Although there's no formal application procedure in place for new teams, F1 and the FIA are at least open to the notion. And hey, that was made plain by Domenicali too, when he reaffirmed that a project of high caliber that added value to F1 would be welcomed before the end of 2022. More manufacturers are still a top objective for F1 stakeholders, and fresh investment for existing teams is always welcome, especially given that all teams have the potential to be successful organizations. So yeah, let's see who's possibly jumping in. First up, let's start with Ford at number 6. A rather peculiar F1 history can be found for one of the largest automakers in the world and the second largest in the United States. Its most prosperous time was when it used Ford-badged Cosworth DFV engines, but its sole works team, the Jaguar, which ran from 2000 to 2004, was a costly disaster. On the other hand, rumor has it, Ford and F1 have held private conversations on the upcoming set of engine rules, which will take effect in 2026. By the looks of it, Ford was inquiring a lot, and that if 2026 came around too quickly, anything may happen after that, as early as the Japanese Grand Prix in early October. Ford, though, is reportedly more interested in a sponsorship or branding agreement than team equity or having a technological say in an engine development program. They also desire to capitalize on F1's expansion, particularly in the US, and its commitment to sustainability with a new engine formula that includes improved electrical components and sustainability is what draws people in. The most likely option for an engine branding agreement that, if it materialized, might be comparable to the Cosworth DFV is Red Bull. Ford has not yet made any formal announcements, confirmed anything, or denied any of the many rumors. Up next is Andretti at number 5. The Andretti family has shown the most interest in a new F1 program, which has had a divisive effect. Michael Andretti's strategy, after failing in his attempt to acquire an already existing business like Sauber, is for a new team called Andretti Global to enter the grid, maybe as early as 2024. The goal is to form a brand new squad instead. Mario Andretti, who frequently serves as the bid's face and spokesperson, has asserted that work is progressing behind the scenes. More information that paints the picture of a project with a defined design has been steadily revealed by the Andrettis. It is said that Colton Herta would be one of the drivers, and an agreement with Renault for engines has already been agreed upon. Andretti has started construction on a new building in the US that would theoretically serve as the main headquarters for an F1 team, while a European base of operations has also been sought. The Andretti's statements, however, have never been backed by concrete evidence of significant investment, and F1 stakeholders are still seen to be highly dubious that this is the type of project that would bring the proper balance of legitimacy, money, and fans to F1. Given that this family is among the most prosperous and well-known in the United States, if not the most, one can only presume that the argument presented by Andretti could have been more compelling on a deeper level. Moving on, while we're on the subject of rich families, here's Calvin Lowe at number 4. Calvin Lowe, a millionaire from Hong Kong, is one of the most ambiguous contenders because he doesn't appear to have a precise plan, but professes to have a concrete interest. Lowe has acknowledged having some sort of connection to Williams through Dorilton, which was thought to be the driving force behind Dorilton Capital's acquisition of the Williams squad in 2020. Although the amount is unknown, a modest investment appears reasonable, given, according to Lowe, he has been looking at opportunities to start a new Formula One team or purchase an existing one, should that prove to be impossible. Lowe has given multiple interviews to major news organizations, which means he is only highlighting the fact that it is public to dangle the offer and see if anyone bites. Not to mention, Hyundai's at number 3. For a few months now, there have been rumors around F1 about Hyundai being seriously interested in an engine program. However, considering that it would be its first excursion into Grand Prix racing, such a move would be a huge endeavor, and it's merely curiosity at this point. Even getting an engine ready for 2026 may be too soon, as no Hyundai commitment of any type has been anticipated yet. And it is simple to understand why Hyundai is interested, given F1's expanding worldwide appeal. There are enough favorable circumstances for this potential to be taken seriously, including the fact that former Renault F1 team principal Cyril Abiteboul is about to join Hyundai as its WRC team principal. Next up, let's talk about Mazepin and/or High-Tech at number 2. Given the evidence at the beginning of the year, it wouldn't be wise to rule them out as potential F1 contenders. Dmitry Mazepin's Uralkali company and Oliver Oak's High-Tech company engaged in a lot of action with the UK government's Registrar of Companies earlier this year, incorporated in January at the same location as High-Tech Grand Prix Uralkali Racing Limited. But a few months later, two more noteworthy events happened. High-Tech Global Holdings Limited was established to take control of the High-Tech Grand Prix, and High-Tech F1 Team Limited was created. By the way, the addresses for all of these businesses are the same in Silverstone. The interest in owning an F1 team by Uralkali/Mazepin dates back several years to when they attempted to acquire Force India. Even if the numerous actions of corporate structure earlier this year were preventative rather than an indication of something impending, it's at least reasonable to consider that proof of continuing interest. They were also associated with a Haas takeover when Nikita drove for that team. team. Given that Mazepin has been Oak's longtime partner and all the action at the beginning of this year, a partnership wouldn't be shocking if or when the crisis brought on by Russia is resolved and the FIA's stance on outright Russian engagement in Formula One changes. Last but not the least, Honda at number 1. Honda formally left Formula One at the end of 2021, but it is obvious that it has not been able to do so in the way that it had hoped. It has formally declared its interest in the 2026 regulations and stated that it is interested in making a formal comeback. It has reportedly maintained a small research and development division that is actively compliant with those laws. The hybrid system's battery and F1's proposed 100% sustainable fuel by 2026 are the two elements that are most plainly in line with Honda's goal of putting innovative carbon-neutral technology first, which was their stated reason for quitting F1 in the first place. What Honda does next appears to be rather open, especially with a new CEO in place after the decision to resign was taken. The HRC president, Koji Watanabe, stated in an interview with The Race earlier this year that in his personal opinion, if Honda were to return to Formula One, a new manner of involvement is essential. Although a Red Bull and Honda partnership in 2026 has been considered, there is no assurance. It is still believed that an internal engine is feasible. This would need entering a Honda Works team for the first time since 2008 and finding a different team to produce an engine for, or even with. Whatever form a Honda 2026 F1 project takes, expectations are always rising. That's a wrap for today's video. Do you think we're going to be seeing more of Porsche? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.